What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Rich Talks BS. I'm your host, Rich. Week 10 of the NFL has just ended, and it was a pretty interesting week. Some really good moments, not so good moments. Let's get down to it. We start with the Thursday night game Colts Titans. Colts 34, Titans 17. It had Philip Rivers with 308 passing yards, one touchdown. Had Hines at 70 yards rushing, one touchdown. He also had 5 catches for 45 yards and a touchdown. They had 133 yards rushing as a team. Pittman came in with 7 catches, 101 yards. Tannehill with 147 yards and one touchdown. Derrick Henry, 103 yards rushing. They rushed for 157 yards as a team. Davis also brought in 5 catches on 67 yards. Dante Foreman had the one touchdown. Rivers is fifth most passing yards in NFL history, passing Dan Marino. A pretty good milestone for someone who's been in the league for so long. Philip Rivers is doing pretty good with the Colts. Looks even better with the Colts than he did with the Chargers. This game was pretty good. You know, the Colts pretty much took over. They had most of the game in their hands. Defense is looking really good. One of the best defenses, if not the best defense in the league, and especially keeping the Titans down to 17 points. That game was really interesting, but Tannehill and the Titans, you got to pick it up. You got to do something. There's something that's got to change. You guys been losing too many games, and this one should have been a little bit closer than what it was. Next, we got Eagles Giants. Eagles 17, Giants 27. You had Carson Wentz at 208 yards passing, no touchdowns. Miles Sanders, 85 yards on 15 attempts. Boston Scott, 3 attempts, 63 yards, and 1 touchdown. They had 156 rushing yards as a team. Richard Rodgers came in with 4 catches on 60 yards. Greg Ward, 5 catches on 39 yards. Daniel Jones, 244 yards passing, and he led the rush with 9 attempts on 64 yards and 1 touchdown. And his 1 touchdown was a 34-yard score on the opening drive. Really good. Gallman with 18 attempts on 53 yards and 2 touchdowns. They had 151 rushing yards as a team. Slayton had 5 catches for 93 yards. Sterling Shepard with 6 catches on 47 yards. The Eagles have allowed 3 or more sacks a game. That's the 8th time this year that they've done that, and it's the most in the NFL. Giants have 2 or more sacks in each of their first 10 games and 100 more yards rushing in 5 consecutive games. The Giants are starting to pick it up, and they're starting to look a little bit better. So Eagles need to watch out. Even though you still lost, you're still leading the division, but the Giants are closing in. This game was pretty good, and again, allowing all those sacks, that's not going to work, and that's not going to win you the division, Eagles. So, got to pick it up. The offensive line's got to pick it up, and got to do better blocking. Next, we got Bucks Panthers. Bucks 46, Panthers 23. Tom Brady threw for 341 yards and 3 TDs. He also rushed one in. Ronald Jones, 23 attempts, 192 yards, and 1 touchdown. His 1 touchdown came in on a 98-yard rush. They had 210 rushing yards as a team. Godwin with 6 catches, 92 yards. Evans with 6 catches, 77 yards, and 1 touchdown. And AB came in with 7 catches and 69 yards. Gronk and Bate also had a touchdown each. Ryan Suckup even was 4 for 4 from field goals. Bridgewater, 136 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. He also rushed one in. Mike Davis, 7 attempts, 32 yards. He also brought in 4 catches on 12 yards. They only had 65 rushing yards as a team. DJ Moore, 4 catches, 96 yards, 1 touchdown. Robbie Anderson, 4 catches, 21 yards. The total yards here, the Bucks just straight dominated offensively, 544 to 187. Panthers defense had no answer to Brady in the offense. They needed to rebound from last week's game, which they did pretty good, which they looked amazing, and which they should have played like this last week. But Breeze and the Saints had their number, and it just wasn't the same team. Gronk tied for 3rd most amongst tight ends in NFL history. Bridgewater left the game with an injury in the 4th quarter. It was ruled as an MCL sprain. He's expected to practice Wednesday and expected to play Sunday against the Lions. Next, we got Texans-Browns. Texans 7, Browns 10. Watson had 163 yards passing, 1 touchdown. He also had 8 rushing attempts for 36 yards. Duke Johnson, 14 attempts rushing and 54 yards. Both had all 90 rushing yards for the team. Cooks with 6 catches, 39 yards. Fuller with 5 catches, 38 yards. Farrell Brown had the 1 touchdown. Mayfield had 132 yards passing. Nick Chubb, 19 attempts, 126 yards, and 1 touchdown. Kareem Hunt, 19 attempts, 104 yards. They had 231 rushing yards as a team. Higgins had 3 catches of 48 yards. The Browns' only touchdown in the fourth quarter, and that's their first since week 4. They're 6-3. They're barely getting by, and their defense it's what's really boosting this offense, because the offense is basically on the backbone of the rushing game, and Baker is not, performing like he did last year. Got to have more passing yards. Got to open it up. You're already missing some receivers, especially OBJ. Jarvis Landry is not doing anything. The passing game just got to step it up. If you guys want to keep winning, you got to pass a little bit more and more efficiently. The rush game is doing good. The defense is doing good, but there's got to be more in that offense. Next, we got the Washington football team and the Lions. Washington 27, Lions 30. Alex Smith, with his first start this year, had 390 passing yards, but no touchdowns. Gibson had 13 attempts for 45 yards and 2 touchdowns. McKissick had 1 touchdown. They only had 89 rushing yards as a team. McKissick also had 7 catches for 43 yards. McLaurin had 7 catches for 95 yards, but he lost a fumble. Isaiah Wright, 6 catches, 59 yards. Stafford with 276 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. DeAndre Swift, 16 attempts, 81 yards. He also brought in 5 catches for 68 yards and a touchdown. They had 105 rushing yards as a team. Marvin Jones had 8 catches, 96 yards, 1 touchdown. Marvin Hall, 2 catches, 61 yards, 1 touchdown. The Lions' defense was all over the field. They had 71 tackles and 2 sacks. That just means Washington snapped the ball a lot, but the Lions were ready for it. It was a close game, but their defense was a little bit more ready than Washington's offense. It's their first home win since week 8 of the 2019 season, which is crazy. Losing that many home games, that can't happen. Prater also hit the 59-yard game-winning field goal. He went 3 for 3 for the day. Stafford injured his thumb in a sack by Pierre-Louis, taped it up, continued playing. It is known as a partial tear in the ligament in his right hand. He's expected to start against the Panthers. Next, we got the Jags and Packers. Jags 20, Packers 24. Lutton with 169 passing yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. James Robinson rushed for 23 attempts, 109 yards, led all rushing. DJ Chark, 4 catches, 56 yards. Keelan Cole, 5 catches, 47 yards, 1 touchdown. He also had a punt return for 91 yards. This team had 2 forced fumbles and 1 interception. Aaron Rodgers, 325 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. He also rushed 1 in. Aaron Jones, 13 attempts, 46 yards. He also brought in 5 catches, 49 yards. They only had 80 rushing yards as a team. Valdes-Scantling, 4 catches, 149 yards, and 1 touchdown. Devontae Adams, 8 catches, 66 yards, and 1 touchdown. The touchdown in the fourth quarter took the lead, and they kept the lead. He also had a lost fumble. Devontae Adams' fourth quarter touchdown was his 49th since the 2016's, most in the NFL in that span. Green Bay only had 3 giveaways, fewest in the league, while having 2 in this game. Keelan's touchdown was his 4th this season, only having 4 in the previous 2 seasons. This game was too close. The Packers defense allowed this horrible Jags offense to just kind of take over. They pretty much took over and they were tied at one point at 17-17. The Jags offense is not that good. Packers defense is starting to look a little bit worried. Aaron Rodgers had a good game, but despite the one interception, but the Packers got to score a little bit more. You got to run a little bit more. You got Aaron Jones. He's a pretty good running back. Give him the ball a little bit more. Keep running. You keep running, it's going to open up more in the passing lanes. And that's what you guys need. You guys need numbers on the offense, you need to score, and your defense needs to do something. There's some changes that need to be done, rearrangements, something needs to happen because your defense can't play like this, especially against the Jags. And with harder teams coming up, you can't be playing the same way. So you got to do something. You gotta change that around, change that defense. You gotta pick it up. Next, we got Bills Cardinals. Bills 30, Cardinals 32. Josh Allen threw for 284 yards. He had 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. He also had 7 attempts rushing and 38 yards. He also caught a touchdown from McKenzie. Zach Moss had 7 attempts on 20 yards. They only had 73 rushing yards as a team. Cole Beasley, 11 catches, 109 yards, and 1 touchdown. Stephon Diggs, 10 catches, 93 yards, and 1 touchdown. Their defense had 65 tackles and 3 sacks. This game was crazy, and to have 65 tackles and still sack Kyler Murray 3 times. Tyler Ross was also 3 for 3 from field goals. His longest was 58. Kyler Murray, 245 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He also had 11 rushing attempts for 61 yards and 2 touchdowns. Kenyon Drake, 16 attempts, 100 yards. He also lost a fumble. Edmonds had 56 rushing yards. They had 217 rushing yards as a team. DeAndre Hopkins, 7 catches, 127 yards, and 1 touchdown. Zane Gonzalez was also 4 for 4 from field goals. Kyler is the only quarterback in NFL history to have one or more passing touchdowns and 1 or more rushing touchdowns in the same game, and that's in 5 straight games. He also joins Cam with 6,000 more passing yards and 1,000 or more rushing yards in the first 25 games. It's crazy. Kyler is having a great game. He's having, a really good second season. He had a good, rookie season, but his sophomore season is even better. I'm starting to see him to start leading the MVP talks. He should be up there in the top 2 for MVP, if not winning the MVP. He's doing some really good things for this Cardinal team, for this Cardinal offense, and I see him kind of almost running away with the MVP. Josh Allen also joins Dak and Deshaun Watson as the only quarterbacks in NFL history with 20 or more passing touchdowns and 5 or more rushing touchdowns in 2 consecutive seasons. The big play in this game was the Hail Mary from Kyler to DeAndre Hopkins, and the walk-off touchdown was amazing. It was crazy. The play, only 10 seconds left, had time to move around, was able to move around. His ability, his athleticism allowed him to move around and was able to get the ball off. And it was just a jump ball with DeAndre Hopkins and 3 Bills defenders. Strongest hands in the game, came down with it, also came down with the win. Broncos Raiders. Broncos 12, Raiders 37. Drew Lock threw for 257 yards, 1 touchdown, and 4 interceptions. Gordon had 11 attempts, 46 yards. They only had 66 rushing yards as a team. Jerry Jeudy had 4 catches, 68 yards. Tim Patrick, 4 catches, 61 yards. Carr had 154 yards passing. Josh Jacobs, 21 attempts, 112 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Booker had 16 attempts, 81 yards, and 2 touchdowns also. They had 203 rushing yards as a team. Waller with 3 catches on 37 yards. Ruggs with 3 catches, 31 yards. Jeff Heath had 2 interceptions. They had 4 interceptions as a team. Raiders are now 5-1 this season when opposing starting quarterback has more passing yards than Carr. That's a crazy stat to have. Why is the other team passing more than your own quarterback, but you're still winning? That's crazy. Carr should be passing more. He should be having more passing yards than this. He's already kind of efficient. He's a little bit more efficient. He's like roughly around the 70% mark, but he's not throwing the ball enough. The rush game is getting you out of these predicaments. It's getting you past these okay teams, which in playing against these Broncos, it was pretty much a blowout, 37-12. But Carr, you got to keep throwing the ball too. Coming up again, you got the Chiefs coming up, and you're not going to beat the Chiefs in the run game. It's going to turn into a shootout. You got to make it into a shootout, but you got to pass more, and you have to outpass Mahomes, which is going to be pretty hard. Like I said, they're pretty much their wins are based on partial defense and the run game, and they're 6-3. Next, we got Chargers Dolphins. Chargers 21, Dolphins 29. Justin Herbert threw for 187 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. He also got a rushing touchdown. Balaj had 18 attempts, 68 yards. He also brought in 5 catches, 34 yards. They only had 99 rushing yards as a team. Keenan Allen with only 3 catches, 39 yards, and 1 touchdown. Hunter Henry also had 4 catches, 30 yards, and 1 touchdown. Tua Tagovailoa, 169 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Ahmed with 21 attempts, 85 yards, and 1 touchdown. They had 111 rushing yards as a team. Jakeem Grant brought in 4 catches, 43 yards, and 1 touchdown. The Chargers are 3-16 in games decided by 8 or fewer points since 2019. That's the most in that span. A lot of close games. So if you're having that many close games, then you need certain role players to help you finish. You already started with Justin Herbert. That's a great start, but now you got to build around that. You got to get better running backs. You got to get better receivers. You got to get Keenan Allen the ball more. He's a great receiver. He's one of the best in the league. Now you're starting to have one of, not the best, but you're starting to have one hell of a quarterback in Justin Herbert, especially with this being his rookie season. He's stepping it up, and you just got to do more. Tua is the 5th quarterback drafted top 5 to start 3-0. And the Dolphins are on a 5-game winning streak. Like, they're scoring 21 or more points in 8 consecutive games in a single season for the first time. This Dolphins team is scoring. Their offense is rolling, and it's based on the defense. Their defense is defense is getting them the ball. The defense is helping them, put yards up. They're putting numbers up, and they're winning. They're actually winning. They have a record of 6-3. It was a closer game with this Chargers team, which the way they played, it shouldn't have been this close, but it happens. That's just the NFL. The numbers can be way off and the score can be really close. But it was still a good game for the Dolphins, still a good game for Tua. Tua's just gonna keep getting better, and as long as he keeps getting better and that defense is helping him out, I'm gonna have him at a close, close race with Justin Herbert in Rookie of the Year, which I think they're gonna give Rookie of the Year to Tua. Next, we got Bengals Steelers. Bengals 10, Steelers 36. Burrow had 213 passing yards and 1 touchdown. Samaje Perine, 7 attempts, 48 yards. Bernard had 8 attempts, 30 yards. They had 139 rushing yards as a team. Tay Higgins brought in 7 catches on 115 yards, 1 touchdown, but he also had a fumble loss. Tyler Boyd, 6 catches, 41 yards. Roethlisberger threw for 333 yards and 4 touchdowns. Connor had 13 attempts with 36 yards. They only rushed for 44 as a team. Deontay Johnson, 6 catches, 116 yards, and 1 touchdown. Juju Smith-Schuster, 9 catches, 77 yards, and 1 touchdown. And you also had Chase Claypool with 4 catches, 56 yards, and 2 touchdowns. They had 4 sacks as a team, and TJ Watt had 2 of them. Boswell was 3 for 3 from field goals with as long as being 45. Bengals have now allowed 3 or more passing touchdowns for the 3rd time in the last 4 games. 0 in the first 5 games. Their defense was, doing pretty good at keeping quarterbacks from passing the 3 or more touchdowns, and then came across the Steelers. Well, actually, the last 4 games, they just been allowing touchdown after touchdown after touchdown through the air. It seems like your defense is getting tired. Your defense looks tired. They're not focused. They need to be more focused, pay more attention to what offense is being ran. Pay attention to the receivers that's coming your way, especially the quarterback, since you're allowing 3 or more touchdowns in the last 4 games. TJ Watt now has 43 and a half sacks since entering the league in 2017. That's a most among linebackers. They also have 1 sack in 66 consecutive games, which is the longest streak since 1982. This Steelers defense is killer. The offense is doing pretty good. Roethlisberger still threw for 300 yards, no interceptions. But this defense is the best in the league. The best in the league. They're, giving up more rushing yards than they should, but that's okay because they're still winning. This Bengals offense is not that explosive, not that great, but they're pretty good, especially with Burrow. Burrow is not, he's not falling under pressure. He's doing pretty good under pressure as a starting quarterback, especially for the Bengals. And coming across the Steeler defense was a little bit of a challenge, more of a challenge for him, and I guess a little bit of a wake up call for him to like, hey, there are some strong defenses out here that are gunning for you. They're aiming for you. They're gonna make sure you don't get the win. They're gonna make sure you don't get numbers. But again, this Steelers defense is the best in the league. If they keep playing like this, they're gonna end up coming across the Chiefs, and if they can withhold and stop Mahomes, they're gonna make a run for the Super Bowl and a big possibility of winning, which would be kind of interesting to see. This prediction of Steelers Bucks, which be pretty interesting to see, especially with the two defenses the way they play. The Bucks defense stops the rush, the Steelers defense kind of don't, but it'll be interesting to see. So, we'll see. Next game, 49ers Saints. 49ers 13, Saints 27. Nick Mullins threw for 247 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. McKinnon had 18 attempts, 43 yards. They only rushed for 49 as a team. Ayuk had 7 catches, 75 yards, 1 touchdown. Jordan Reed had 5 catches, 62 yards. They had 2 fumbles and lost both fumbles. Drew Brees only threw for 76 yards and 1 touchdown. He got injured off a sack, and he was replaced by Jameis Winston, who only threw for 63 yards. Latavius Murray had 9 attempts, 57 yards. Taysom Hill had 8 attempts for 45 yards. And Kamara had 8 attempts, 15 yards, and 2 touchdowns, which he also led the receivers with 7 catches, 83 yards, and 1 touchdown. As a team, they had 5 fumbles and lost 2 of them. Both fumbles that they lost were by Taysom Hill. They had 63 tackles and 2 sacks as defense. Their defense did pretty good. Again, this 49ers team is banged up. They don't have a lot of their starters. They're playing with, backups, and the way that this Saints defense is built, you expected for them to have a lot of tackles. You expected for them to put pressure on the Niners offense, which they did, and to still put up 27 points, without Drew Brees, but you still had Alvin Kamara, which, Alvin Kamara is a beast. Look for him to be the dark horse in the MVP race, and he actually could give Kyler Murray a run for MVP, which would be an interesting battle for MVP. Saints were held to 237 total yards, which is the fewest since Week 11 in the 98 season. Brees, like I said, got injured, broken ribs on both sides, a couple of broken ribs on both sides, and a collapsed lung. Some people are expecting for him to be out for 2 to 3 weeks, but we'll see what happens. I don't expect for him to be out long, but don't be out too long because you could start losing the race for the NFC South. The Bucks could run away with it, and you could be on the outside looking in the wild card race. Next, we got Rams. Seahawks 16, Rams 23. Russell Wilson threw for 248 yards, no touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. He also led the rush with 8 attempts, 60 yards, and had a fumble loss. Alex Collins with 11 attempts, 43 yards, and 1 touchdown. They had 113 rushing yards as a team. Lockett had 5 catches, 66 yards. This defense has 61 tackles and 3 sacks. Jared Goff threw for 302 yards, no touchdowns, but he also had a fumble loss. Cam Akers, 10 attempts, 38 yards. Malcolm Brown, 6 attempts, 33 yards, and 2 touchdowns. They had 106 rushing yards as a team. Josh Reynolds had 8 catches for 94 yards. Darius Williams had 2 interceptions. Leonard Floyd had 3 sacks. They had 6 sacks as a team. Getting to Wilson and sacking him 6 times like that, that's crazy. This offense is starting to fall apart a little bit. The defense is already falling apart. Wilson, you're out of my MVP race. I had you winning the MVP earlier this year at Midway. Like I said, one more bad game and you're done. You're done. Um, it's going to be hard for you to bounce back after a game like this. Even if you do, you're going to have good games. But this game is pretty much shut down your MVP talks. Williams is now one of 3 players to intercept Wilson multiple times in a game. Like, he had 2 interceptions on you. You got intercepted twice by one player, sacked 3 times by one player. That's crazy. That should not be happening to a quarterback like Russell Wilson. The Rams are now 31-0 when leading at halftime since 2017. The only team without a loss in such games in that span. Defense is one of the best, led by Aaron Donald. He's killing it. He didn't didn't have any. No, he's just leading the league in sacks. He's just leading this Rams defense on a way to a playoff run. It'll be interesting to see them go up against the Bucks and Tampa in the playoffs with Brady in the playoffs. It'll be a different team, different squad, and we'll see how that defense reacts to that. Next, we got the Sunday night game. Ravens-Patriots. Ravens 17, Patriots 23. Lamar Jackson had 249 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. He also had 11 attempts and 55 rushing yards. Edwards was 7 attempts, 42 yards. They had 115 rushing yards as a team. Willie Snead, 5 catches, 64 yards, 2 touchdowns. Mark Andrews, 7 catches, 61 yards. Again, this defense, 64 tackles and only 1 sack. Cam Newton, 118 yards passing, 1 touchdown. 11 rushing attempts, 21 yards, and 1 touchdown. Damian Harris, 22 attempts, 121 yards rushing. They rushed for 173 as a team. Jacoby Myers had 5 catches, 59 yards, and a passing touchdown. Burkhead with 4 catches, 35 yards, and 2 touchdowns. This defense had 66 tackles and 2 sacks. This was a battle of the defense. It was an okay scoring game. Cam's been playing good. He's been playing great since coming back off the COVID list. And the way he's been playing, he's more determined. He's more focused. He's starting to settle more into this Belichick offense, this Josh Daniels offense, and he's running his game. They're letting him run his game. He's almost starting to look like his old self. This defense is starting to look better. This Ravens offense is not that explosive anyway, but for the way they played against this Ravens offense, it was pretty good. Especially getting Lamar Jackson on 2 sacks. Jackson now is 0-6 as a starting quarterback when trailing by 10 points at any point in the game. If you're up 10 points on Lamar Jackson, you're pretty much guaranteed to win. It's a 0-6 number, but you're almost pretty much guaranteed to win. He's been sacked 23 times this season, which meets his total sacks for the whole season of 2019. He also joins Cam as the only quarterback with 500 more rushing yards in his first 3 seasons. Cam now leads all quarterbacks in NFL history with 67 rushing touchdowns. The closest behind him has 44. Like I said, Cam's been playing great. Cam's playing his game. He looks good. Don't really expect the Patriots to make a playoff run. The AFC is pretty tough. Even if they squeeze in and make the wild card, I'm having them out in the first round. They're not gonna make it far. They're looking better. Keep working towards looking good, making adjustments. Next year you're gonna be a way better team. especially with everybody coming back who also opted out. Finally, we have the Monday night game. Vikings Bears. Vikings 19, Bears 13. Kirk Cousins threw for 292 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Cook had 30 attempts, 96 yards. They had 99 rushing yards as a team. Justin Jefferson, 8 catches, 135 yards. Thielen with 4 catches, 43 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Nick Foles had 106 passing yards, 1 interception. He got injured. Tyler Bray had to come in, to finish the game. He got injured right there towards the end of the fourth quarter. It looked pretty bad. Patterson with 12 attempts, 30 yards. He also returned the kickoff for a touchdown for 104 yards. They only had 41 rushing yards as a team. Allen Robinson had 6 catches, 43 yards. As a team, they had 3 fumbles and lost 1. This defense had 66 tackles and 1 sack. This Bears defense is really good. The offense tears it down. They can't finish. They can't get first downs. They can't finish scoring. They can't finish games. It's unfortunate what happened to Nick Foles, but the injury doesn't seem to be as bad as it was feared at first. It's a day-to-day issue, so I kind of expect for him to be back Sunday, and he'd be a better starter over Trubisky also. Like I said, this defense is great. He's got you got a lot of star players on this defense. It's just your offense is just not good enough to keep the defense rolling, to keep the games going, and to take the win. The Bears have now lost 4 straight games after starting 5-1. Kirk Cousins finally wins a Monday night game, but that makes his record 1-9. Jefferson ties Moss for the second most games with 100 or more receiving yards by a Minnesota rookie with 4 games. Patterson is now tied with 2 other players with the most kickoff return touchdowns in NFL history. This game was an interesting game. It wasn't high scoring. Like I said, this Bears defense is good. It's just they just couldn't stop the Vikings. The Vikings were, kind of all over the field. Like I said, the Bears offense just can't get it done, and they're not helping out this defense in, keeping their breath, staying in the momentum, keeping the momentum. And this offense has just got to change. There's changes that needs to be done. It kind of starts with the head coach, which he gave up the play calling. Now his offensive coordinator doing the play calling, which you can kind of see the difference, but still the same outcome. You can't finish plays. You can't finish for the first downs. You can't finish, drives on scoring touchdowns. So there's still a problem there. You still got to change it up. But overall, it was a decent game for it to be a Monday night. Well, that's all the BS I have for this episode. Until next time.